Hey guys, how are you all? Hope you all are fine and living your life to the fullest. We are back with another interesting Reddit confession story about a hidden apartment. So let's start. I'm currently sitting in a motel room 3 states away from home, watching the sunset through a gap in the curtains, and I'm terrified to check my phone. By now, the police have probably broken down the door. By now, my sister has realized that her perfect life was built on a foundation of bones. I didn't set out to destroy my family. I just wanted to know why my mother spent 30 years looking over her shoulder. My name is Elias. For most of my life, I was the disappointment. My older sister, Clara, was the golden child, a high-powered attorney with a handsome husband and a massive house in the suburbs. I, on the other hand, am a freelance restorer of antique furniture. I spend my days in a workshop, alone, fixing things that people have discarded. Our mother, Elena, died 4 months ago. She was a quiet woman, deeply religious, but always vibrating with a nervous energy. She never let us go into the basement of our childhood home. She told us the mold was dangerous. Even after we grew up, that door stayed locked with a heavy deadbolt. When she passed, she left everything to Clara, the house, the savings, the investments, everything. I got a single item in the will, a heavy, hand-carved mahogany desk that had been in her bedroom for as long as I could remember. "Don't be bitter, Elias," Clara told me at the funeral, her eyes dry and her voice sharp. "You were never good with money. Mom knew the house would be safer in my hands. You can have your dusty old desk." I didn't care about the money. I cared about the way Clara looked at me, like I was a stranger, but more importantly, I cared about the desk. As a restorer, I knew that desk was special. It wasn't just mahogany, it was weighted strangely. I hauled it back to my workshop, feeling the heft of it. It was 19th century craftsmanship, beautiful but scarred. When I started stripping the old lacquer, I realized the dimensions didn't make sense. The outer depth of the desk was 30 inches, but the interior drawers were only 22 inches deep. There were 8 inches of dead space built into the back of that unit. I spent 3 days searching for the mechanism. I felt like a voyeur, picking at my dead mother's secrets. Finally, I found a small notch hidden behind the molding of the left leg. I pressed it, and I heard a heavy thud. The back panel didn't just pop open. It slid down on a weighted track. Inside weren't family photos or jewelry. Inside were 3 things: a burner phone that was still plugged into a hidden battery pack, a stack of ledgers written in a shorthand I didn't recognize, and a set of keys to the basement door of our childhood home. There was also a note. It was in my mother's shaky handwriting, dated just 1 week before her stroke. It said, "Elias, you are the only one quiet enough to listen. If you find this, Clara has already made her choice. Don't let them find the girl." I felt the blood drain from my face. What girl? Clara was the only daughter. I looked at the burner phone. It buzzed in my hand. A text message appeared on the screen from an unsaved number. It read, "The payment is late. Is Elena still breathing? Or are we coming to the house?" I realized then that my mother wasn't just a nervous old woman. She was a gatekeeper, and I had just inherited a debt I didn't understand. I didn't call Clara. My sister and I have a complicated history. She's always been the protector, but there was a darkness in her even as a kid. She was the one who taught me how to lie to our parents. She was the one who told me that secrets are the only things that truly belong to you. I drove to our childhood home at 2 a.m. Clara hadn't moved in yet. She was planning to renovate and flip it. The for sale sign was already hammered into the front lawn, a coming soon banner fluttering in the wind. I used the keys from the desk to get inside. The house smelled like stale air and my mother's rosewater perfume. I went straight to the basement door. The deadbolt turned with a heavy, metallic groan. I expected a crime scene. I expected something gruesome. Instead, when I flipped the light switch, I saw a living room. It was a small, windowless apartment built into the back half of the basement, hidden behind a false wall of storage shelves. There was a bed, a small kitchenette, and hundreds of books. It was clean, it was cozy, and it was occupied. A woman was sitting on the edge of the bed. She looked to be about my age, maybe 30. Her skin was incredibly pale, and her eyes were wide with a terror that looked permanent. She didn't scream. She just put her hands up and whispered, "Is she dead?" "My mother?" I asked, my heart hammering against my ribs. "Yes, she died 4 months ago." The woman slumped, a sob escaping her throat. "Then why did the food stop 3 days ago? Why didn't Clara come?" Clara knows about this? I asked. The woman, who told me her name was Sarah, looked at me with a strange mix of pity and fear. Clara is the reason I'm here. Elias, your mother didn't kidnap me. She saved me, but she had to pay them to keep me hidden, the people Clara works for. My world tilted. Clara was a partner at a prestigious firm, but Sarah began to tell me a story that sounded like a nightmare. She told me that 10 years ago, she had been a witness to a cleanup involving one of Clara's high-profile clients. Clara's job wasn't just legal defense, it was reputation management for some very dangerous people. Instead of disposing of Sarah, my mother, who acted as a housekeeper for Clara back then, had intercepted the situation. She had made a deal. She would keep Sarah hidden, dead to the world. If the client stayed away, my mother used the money from the desk, money she extorted from Clara's own firm, to pay off the collectors who knew Sarah was still alive. Clara thinks I'm a liability, Sarah whispered. She told your mother that as soon as the house was sold, I had to be handled. Your mother was trying to get me out, Elias. She was building a new identity for me. Just then, my phone, the burner phone, vibrated again, a new message. We tracked the GPS. Someone is in the house. End it now, Clara, or we do. They thought I was Clara, and then I heard the front door upstairs creak open. I grabbed Sarah's hand and pulled her toward the utility exit, a small coal chute that had been converted into a crawl space. We huddled in the shadows as footsteps thudded above us. Elias. It was Clara's voice. It wasn't the voice of a grieving daughter. It was cold, clinical, and terrifyingly calm. I know you're down there, she said, her voice echoing through the floorboards. I saw your car. I knew you'd find the desk. You always were too curious for your own good. You think you're the hero. You think you're saving her. I didn't answer. I could hear her walking toward the basement door. Mom was weak, Clara continued. She turned a simple business transaction into a 20-year drama. Do you have any idea how much money I've funneled into that desk to keep those people happy, to keep you safe? Because if they found Sarah, they'd realize Mom betrayed them. And if Mom betrayed them, they'd kill the whole bloodline. She was at the top of the basement stairs now. I could see her silhouette in the doorway. She wasn't holding a weapon. She was holding her phone. I'm calling them, Elias, she said. I'm telling them the leak has been found. If you walk out of here right now and leave her, I can tell them I handled it. I can tell them you were never here. You go back to your workshop, you fix your little chairs, and we never speak again. You get to live. She's a person, Clara. I yelled, my voice cracking. She's a loose end. Clara snapped back. She's been dead for a decade. The world doesn't want her back. Look at her. She can't even stand in the sunlight. You're not saving a life. You're dragging a ghost into the light. And it's going to burn us both. Sarah gripped my arm. Her skin felt like ice. She's right, Sarah whispered. They won't stop, as long as I'm breathing. You're in danger. In that moment, I realized the depth of my mother's guilt. She hadn't been a protector. She had been a jailer who fell in love with her prisoner's safety. And Clara? Clara was just a monster who saw human lives as line items on a balance sheet. I looked at the ledgers I had taken from the desk. I realized they weren't just records of payments. They were evidence, dates, names, bank accounts. Every cleanup Clara's firm had ever done. My mother hadn't just been paying them off. She had been documenting them. I have the ledgers, Clara, I shouted. I have the burner phone, everything. If anything happens to Sarah, it all goes to the feds automatically. I set a dead man switch on my laptop. I was lying. I didn't know how to set up a dead man switch, but I knew my sister. She was a gambler who only bet on sure things. The silence from the top of the stairs lasted for a full minute. Then, I heard the basement door close, and the deadbolt click. Fine, Clara's voice came through the wood, muffled and distant. You want her. She's yours, but you're dead to me, and Elias, run fast. Because my clients don't care about ledgers. They care about silence. I got Sarah out through the coal chute. We ran through the woods behind the house to where I had parked my truck 3 blocks away. That was 48 hours ago. I've spent the last 2 days driving. I took Sarah to a woman my mother had listed in the back of the ledger, a contact in a different state. It turns out my mother did have a plan. She had been building a network for years, a way to disappear people who didn't deserve to be gone. I dropped Sarah off at a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere. Before she got out of the truck, she looked at me. She didn't say thank you. She just asked, Why did you do it? You lost your sister. You lost your life. You're a fugitive now. I didn't have a good answer. I'm a restorer, I told her. I don't like things that are broken. But here's the thing. The part that's keeping me awake in this motel room. I checked the ledgers again this morning. I finally cracked the shorthand. It wasn't just a list of Clara's crimes. There was a section at the very end, dated 25 years ago. It was a record of a payment made to a private adoption agency. A payment made by my mother to acquire a child whose parents had disappeared during a firm negotiation. The child was me. Clara isn't my biological sister. My mother didn't save Sarah because she was a saint. She saved Sarah because Sarah was the second time my mother had tried to atone for the sins of the family business. I was the first. I'm sitting here now, looking at the burner phone. It just received a text. It's not from a collector. It's from Clara. I checked the records. Elias, I know you know. Did you really think you were the only one Mom lied to? Come home. Let's talk about who you actually are. I'm not going back. I'm going to the FBI. But as I look at my hands, the hands that fix broken things, I wonder how much of the disappointment I was actually just my mother's fear that I would grow up to be like the people who gave me to her. I destroyed my family to save a stranger, only to find out I was the stranger all along. Was it worth it? I don't know, but I do know one thing. Some things are so broken, they can't be restored. They can only be burned down.